Welcome to another episode of the When to Pick series. Today's video features everyone's favorite diabetic, Jungle Gragas. Jungle Gragas is an old school niche jungler that has gone through many iterations of builds and viability. He is a versatile jungler who excels the most currently with a health tank build. He is perhaps one of the most powerful bodyguards currently in the game. Gragas starts off rather average in all aspects of jungling, except in ganking, in which he is always incredibly strong at. He quickly starts growing immensely in effectiveness at all aspects of jungling, and his ganking becomes remarkably strong thanks to his ultimate and his low cooldowns. He is also very sustained in the jungle, and camp clearing becomes really fast. He is notable for being able to gank any lane rather successfully, and for being quite potent at protecting his team. As far as jungle tanks go, he is one of the harder jungle tanks to learn to use. While Jungle Gragas is a strong tank who excels at the aspects of jungling, he still has his downsides. His bruiser build is rather mediocre, and his AP build was far stronger in his previous iterations, thus most likely pushing Gragas into solely being a tank at all times. As a tank, he can excel at combat in the early game, but he quickly starts scaling down and focusing more on peeling and disruption. This does mean he can be rather risky against late game oriented team compositions if his teammates don't pick champions to make up for this. Even so, he's a pretty strong first pick thanks to his versatility and the fact that the enemy team might consider that Gragas is going to a lane instead of the jungle. Gragas is very effective against enemy compositions with dashes, as his body slam has better priority and can stop them mid-dash or mid-flight. He is also incredibly strong against full engaged team compositions, especially those with champions with no other means of mobility, such as Xin Zhao, Aatrox, Malphite, and Wukong. A well-placed ultimate can sometimes be all it takes to completely deter a full engaged team composition. This fact can make him a very powerful late pick if you notice the enemy team choosing a composition full of hard engages or dash champions. As was already stated, he is pretty average for the first few levels, and this means he's vulnerable to strong junglers like Lee Sin and Nudier. This weakness is overcome in a few levels, so the window of frame of advantage the enemy duelist would have over him disappears rather quickly. Gragas' versatility allows him to be picked into basically every team composition one could think of. He excels in pick comps as he can chase down a target and pin them down or disperse the enemy team so his teammates can beeline towards the target. He also excels in poking compositions as he himself can assist with poking, and you can use his ultimate to disengage for his team if they get engaged upon. As a tank, he's insanely powerful in protect compositions as he can single-handedly peel an entire enemy team off his carry thanks to his low cooldowns and wealth of crowd control. He is very strong when paired up with Yasuo, as Gragas' barrel will enable Yasuo to use his ultimate on the entire enemy team. If he is paired up with someone like Janna, they can combine their powers to make it nearly impossible for the enemy team to do anything to their carry. Sona and Naomi also work to a lesser extent in this whole aspect. Any marksman with mobility and power to reposition are incredibly strong with Gragas, as they can reposition themselves according to how he juggles the enemy team and follow him during his chases. This means Ezreal, Lucian, and especially Vayne are strong marksmen to be paired up with him. His strongest build is definitely pure tank. Tank items with a focus on health and cooldown reduction are recommended in order to take full advantage of his Drunken Rage damage reduction. Items such as Spirit of the Ancient Golem and Spirit Visage are highly sought out by Gragas. These items, when combined with Iceborne Gauntlet and cooldown reduction runes, will give him 40% cooldown reduction and an easily activated AoE slow that further strengthens his healing power. His AP build, while stronger before, is still competent and can go full burst with any standard AP build, or can go more support oriented with Morellonomicon, Twin Shadows, and or Rylai's Scepter. Now let's go over some of the things we learned. Gragas is a strong jungler that is best played as a tank with a ganking focus early and a bodyguard focus later. He starts off average in most jungle aspects but quickly becomes very powerful and loses most of his early weaknesses. He is a strong first pick, although there is some risk of first picking him as his damage tapers off later into the game and you might be screwed if the enemy team is composed of pure late game champions. Even so, he can be picked at any point during champion select and be a very strong and competent pick. He is very powerful in all sorts of team compositions such as protect compositions, pick compositions, and poke compositions. He can be absolutely devastating against full engaged team compositions thanks to the power of his ultimate. One will place barrel toss and completely shut down and engage. His builds are varied enough for most situations, but it is highly recommended he build to support his Drunken Rage, and thus be built primarily tank. As a personal recommendation, he's a very fun champion, although a tad harder than your average tank jungler. He is generally always useful and can be a massive playmaker.